Good morning, Superkickin with Stephen fans. Your favorite host right here, Stephen A. 1181, the Greg one over there. Glad to be back here at our kind of new time for the time being, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hopefully Big Ben can join us from his early wake up time. I know he said he was headed to Raw 30, which is tomorrow night. Kind of hard to believe. Raw 30, Greg. We're super old, which we already knew, but
No
now
kidding.
just keeps making you feel older. Every time I pass a milestone or every time I hear a milestone of like wrestling or music or celebrity, I just think, man, or the worst is going to a basketball game, and I knew I was old, Greg, when I looked at the roster, and I was only younger than one player. That was that kind of like hit me
Nice.
hard. I think it was the Pacers team of the 2012, 2013-ish, where David West was the oldest guy on there, and everybody else was, below 30. And I was just like, man, I had to keep looking at the dates of birth and be like, wait, I'm older than these rosters. So, by the way, our Pacers and my Pacers, your Suns played last night. You guys got the better end of us. We are in a 6-game losing streak, so that's fun. Halliburton out. That's really hurt things. But you guys finally picked up a win, right? You were kind of heading in the opposite direction as well. So,
Yeah, the Suns aren't
are you
doing much
guys?
better right now,
Are you
but a lot
just
of the
out of the
starters are
playoffs?
out.
Yeah, out of the playoffs so far, right?
Pretty close to it. We're in that playoff game or a play-in game
Okay,
territory,
that's what
and
we're at.
nobody wants that. So I think once we get Paul back and Booker back, and
Yeah,
I think half the starting five, the real starting five, is out injured. So once you get those injuries guys back in, they'll be all right. They'll go on a run and get back to that fourth, fifth seed where they should be.
yeah, and I think that's what kind of hurt the Pacers last night, not being able to beat your guys with a couple of key players out. But and then again, like I said all along, Greg, we said, at the beginning, this season was supposed to be a playing with house money. Projected to get 23 wins, 24, 25 wins. And here we were battling for sixth seed and, looking good and still a game or two behind, 500. We're in the ninth spot. The Bulls are sitting about 4 or 5 games under 500. So I don't know. It is that weird thing. Do I want my team to get in the play-in game and get that experience, or do you want to lose out and get a high draft pick? I always think that's a weird, like, it's a conversation because do you want that experience of, playing like a high end game for later on, or do you just want to get another another high projected pick? But we don't always know how those turn out, right? I mean, it's a crapshoot anymore, and I don't watch college basketball as much as I used to, Greg. So even anymore, it's like hard for me to tell you, like, oh yeah, this guy is a top pick. This guy, just
Hmm.
with so much transition anymore. Back in our day, I know we're going to sound like old men, but the same player played for 2 or 3 years or 4 years.
Right.
And you knew those guys. Like you'd watch March Madness and be like, that guy's still playing for them. We'd see these guys playing for ever it felt like, but anymore just with NIL and transfer portal and guys maybe going to Europe instead and guys going to G League instead and just playing 1 or 2 years. I couldn't even tell you who's worth going after. Uh, but yeah,
I know.
and what else
There's no
about
college basketball dynasties anymore, like the UCLA's and the Dukes, and even, as much as I hate to say it, the UNC's, the Kansas, the Blue Bloods. There's
because even
the
Kansas beat
dynasty ever is
yesterday. I
over.
saw like TCU beat Kansas, which I was like, I didn't realize TCU was ranked in basketball. So we know they made the college playoff in football, but yeah. So, and then also we saw the Giants get rattled. I guess needless to say, get beat by the Eagles. So horrible picking on my part on that end for that. But and then the who else moved on?
Kansas City.
Kansas City, yeah, and they got towards the end. It looked like 27-20. So um, but man, that Jags team came on late, Greg, and I know took care of you guys, and they might look like they can finally stop being Jags, right, and maybe start being Jaguars. Like
Maybe.
maybe
We'll see.
I mean, I guess that's what's and people have brought up that in. They're like, every year we think they turn the corner, then the next year they lose. They go 3-13 or 3-7, 3-14. So, um, but and then today we got the big matchup, Bills and Bengals. I think that's what that one everybody's going to be watching. You think so? And then it's Niners and Cowboys.
Yep.
So we shall see who moves on, who we pulled for in those two matchups.
It's interesting. I picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl at the beginning of the year.
Okay.
I figured they'd beat my Chargers in the championship game. So give it at 100. That's what I put. And even now, I still think the Bills are going to get it done. However, I wouldn't mind Cincinnati winning, seeing as the fact that Cincinnati is the only team that consistently beats Kansas City right now. So plus that weird dynamic that if Cincinnati beats Buffalo, then the AFC Championship is going to be at a neutral site, and
Yeah.
apparently the neutral site is going to be in Atlanta. So that would
That
be
creates
an
a little
interesting
more.
dynamic too.
And
I
really,
might even drive down to go to the game if that ends up being the case.
yeah, I was
So
going to say Cincinnati to Atlanta at least it's a drive, but it's not terrible or a flight. You think those Bengal fans will travel, but yeah, I think. Then who are we going for, Dallas or San Francisco?
I think San Francisco's going to win.
That's
Dallas, reputed choke artists, and this is their way to get over that moniker, or get over that hump, and
yeah.
get rid of that tag as choke artists. So the history goes way back.
Doesn't
So
even matter who's been that quarterback,
right,
which is
it's happened with Dak, it's happened with Apron, it's happened with all the star Dallas
the butt
quarterbacks. So
fumble, right? Marcus Sanchez,
yep,
which just think how many years ago that was, and Tony Romo never made it. Uh, never made a Super Bowl, right? I don't think Romo ever made one. So
no,
uh, I don't know. I don't know how many conference. I forget how many conference finals they went to. Yeah, you got to wonder. I think most people are. Then I feel like it seems like either the Bills or Bengals have kind of turned into that lovable team, right? I mean, that's kind of why I think a lot of people tune in for that one, especially with the Bills and Damar Hamlin, and then you just have the Bengals who have always been, the Bungles as they used to be called. But I think
yeah,
I'll go Bills as well. I think Bills and Niners. That's
yeah. San Francisco's turned into a juggernaut. They've won 11 games in a row.
yeah.
Since they brought in McCaffrey, I think they've gone on a tear. So
And Purdy, like
and Purdy, yeah,
I know I've been listening to ESPN and they said, if Purdy wins, and goes to the Super Bowl, how can you put Trey Lance back in there for him? That's like a real but then again, the Niners gave up the farm right to get Trey Lance, so they knew they wanted him. That's going to be an interesting conversation for the Niners next year. I mean, we
yeah.
already assume Jimmy G's on his way out, so I think that has to happen now. But yeah, so Niners and Bills, and we'll see if the Bills can finally overcome. I still remember, Greg, and I'm sure you do, the 4 straight Super Bowl losses,
Yep.
which is crazy to think. But and then the Chiefs are in their 5th straight AFC Championship, which is crazy to think. But it goes to show that one quarterback can really get you going, the right ones. So, and of course, the Chiefs gave up the farm and for him, and then I think the Bills got Josh Allen because of that. So how crazy is it? A win-win for once, in the trades.
Right.
I wanted to get this lighthearted, Greg, because unfortunately we got to start. Ah, man, not lighthearted. When I saw this, I was like, I had to keep reading like the name because I was like, that's not the Dre Briscoe that I know, right? Like, car accident, car crash. Unfortunately, he passes away. 2 daughters are with him. The daughters, I think, are coming around. I think the one daughter she could feel in her extremities now, which is good. Um, and the school corporation closed down a day for the family. I mean, that shows how much this Briscoe family is like. I think it's a really small town. and tight knit community. It sounds like, Greg, where they live. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, just some of the we think some of the things that we'll just never get to see the Briscoes, uh, wrestle as a tag team again, and really sad to see. And like you said, I think you said it best, where this is my kind of first take on them, recently, and I know people have talked them up for years and years, and they just did it the right way. They stayed to their roots. Became the face of Ring of Honor. I mean, essentially, if you think about it. So, and I saw Big E tweet they took some of their stuff from them. FTR obviously, finally did business with them. I'm sure the Usos. I'm sure many of tag teams owe some of their repertoire and their abilities to do they thanks to the Briscoes. So yeah, a somber start to our show today, but I have to send our condolences to that, Greg. And anything you'd like to add to that, and then we'll kind of move to our other story that was making the rounds this week.
Yeah, absolutely. When he sent me this, my heart sank because, um, like I said, it's just been this past year, probably the end of 21, beginning of 22, that I even saw the Briscoes for the first time.
Yeah.
And I've gushed about them on this station multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I started watching those GCW shows because, Mox and, Nick Gage got my first taste of it there. And, I saw the Briscoes in that card and I'm like, I like these guys. And they just jump off the screen at you. And they've always been in that conversation. Who's the best tag team outside WWE? And the Briscoes and the Young Bucks are always the first two names people out of people's mouths. And after seeing them on those GCW shows, after getting that first taste, I had to go back and see another GCW show, hoping to see the Briscoes on it. And um, every match I saw with them was amazing. Every promo I saw with them was amazing. And they look like outtake or extras from the movie Deliverance, but these guys bring it, and you can tell they're brothers. They know what each other thinks. They know what each other is going to do before they do it. Um, they are just an amazing, amazing tag team, and I'm so disappointed that I didn't get on to them earlier. Get to see some of those other classic matches they've been in, back through the years because they've been around for a minute.
Okay.
And he's only 38 years old. He had so much more, you know, classics to put down. And so, my heart still hurts for him, him and his family, two daughters, 9 years old, 12 years old. And, thank God they're coming through. They're going to have a long road to recovery, but they're still alive and, they're going to carry on dad's memory. And so, condolences to the family. But, yeah,
Gotta
it
wonder.
sucks. And seeing
Gotta
the
wonder what the
response
brother
has
will
been
do. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
exactly, and it's been great seeing the response from all the WWE wrestlers, the AEW wrestlers around the world coming out, and they always say the same thing. You won't find anybody to say a bad thing about him. Um, they laid down finally got the tag team titles from the FTR. That dog collar match was off the chain, and yeah, it just sucks. So, rest in power, Jamin. I don't even Jamin. Um, we're gonna miss you. World is deprived of four Briscoe brothers matches. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with his brother. I don't know if there's any other wrestlers in the family, in the bloodline, in the pipeline, whatever. But you know, shout out to Mark too because he's the closest man to him. So I hope they all do great and they come through and come out better. But
And
rest in
this,
peace and condolences to the family.
and I know that apparently Warner Brothers did not want to air a tribute live for them because of past comments. And this goes back to the idea, Greg. We've talked about, like, you can make comments in the past, but you can also turn it around. Turn around. Now, if you're
Yeah.
an idiot who keeps making those same kind of comments, okay, you're canceled. I understand, but it sounds like, I think he understood at the time they probably weren't the best comments. They weren't the right comments. I mean, we're seeing it with Tony Dungy right now, Greg, and whatnot. And I can see both sides of the fence. Uh, but it sounds like it'll be available. There'll be a tribute show on the Honor Club, which I have many streaming apps, Greg, and I'm almost tempted to maybe look into that because that would definitely give us our fill of old school Ring of Honor. Go back and watch Samoa Joe and Bryan Danielson and CM Punk and Chris Hero and Seth Rollins and uh, you know all the Bullet Club, Adam Cole. I mean Matt Taven. Mike, all this old school stuff. But yeah, I wish. It's too bad they could never appear on national TV.
Yeah.
And like us, because it sounded like he understood that those comments weren't the best interest. And if
Right.
you
They
can
were a
get,
decade ago. So, he came out, just apologized for it so many times over, and they've grown and gotten better after that. But, they want to, hold them to the fire for something that was said 10 years ago. I mean, if you live in the past, you're going to be doomed to repeat it. And I'm mad at Warner Brothers for not allowing AEW to do a tribute show and allow that old footage to be played and all that. So they'll find some ways around it, I'm sure. But it sucks we didn't all get to enjoy that.
we also do have Dan in the comments section. Look at that. He's got his little go, Eagles go, fly, Eagles fly. So there you go.
Of course.
You're rooting all head for them. So let's get a
What's
little
up, Dan?
lighthearted though. So Greg, they're putting the smoky mirror that The Rock isn't sure he's ready for WrestleMania. He wants to be sure he's completely ready. And then they also did pull the plug on the acknowledgement ceremony. So Greg, is The Rock going to be at WrestleMania against Roman Reigns?
Of course he is. I mean, anybody who doesn't believe it, put your tinfoil hats on now so we know who you are. This is what we expected. We had the same thing last year with Cody. Is he going to be there? Is he not going to be there? And I realize now that that was the OMG moment that I left out when we did our year-end show. Huge OMG moment. Have Cody coming out. Not that we didn't believe that he was going to be there. Yeah, we believed he was going to be there. But him coming out in his full AEW gimmick, from
that was
the gear to the music to the entrance, all of it exactly the same. That was an OMG moment right there.
Yep.
So, that blew my mind when I saw that, because, I expect Cody, but I didn't expect AEW Cody to show up full pomp and circumstance, everything to the T. And yeah, that was a huge, huge OMG moment. So do I expect The Rock? Absolutely expect The Rock. And yeah, he's going to be launching XFL, but is he going to be playing on a team? No. He's going to be doing promotion. He's going to be doing the TV talk show circuit and getting the word out, doing the ESPN and all that stuff. And, he trains every day, hours a day, wherever he is. He's making movies, he's training. He's at home, he's training. He's got probably a mobile gym that goes with him everywhere he goes. So I have no doubt in my mind that he is training wherever he is. He's probably training right now. And, this is all just, yeah, it's all just red herrings to make the actual reality that much bigger. So am I buying that he might not be there? No, absolutely not.
Does he show up at Rumble?
That's a better question. Because I was partly thinking,
out till after eliminate? Like, could we wait it out till after Elimination Chamber?
we could set the whole ball and rolling after Elimination Chamber. That way, you still have 6 weeks or so to
Get some extra month too.
get that, yeah, get the storyline going. and really get it hot by the time WrestleMania comes around, and that's the match everybody's salivating over. So, and in the meantime, Roman could get distracted. He could lose the title. Um, all the other things that happen on the side can be happening, and this thing is be ready to explode by the time we get to WrestleMania. So,
I mean, this
yeah,
is the time you have to do it. Like, I don't know if next year it means as much. And plus you'd have to do a whole nother year of Roman. Like, you'd have to figure out a whole nother way. But now they only gave me pause because they did change out this trial of Sami Zayn for tomorrow night, Greg. That gave me a little bit of pause that maybe The Rock isn't going to be ready, had to give them, or just had other commitments. I mean, that's the thing. Like you said, he's a busy dude. So
yeah,
who knows and maybe not necessarily wrestling ready, Greg, but maybe just time wise, like you said, with the XFL launching, with maybe a publicity circuit for it. Maybe there's another movie deal. Um, it just made me wonder. So so then the question becomes: if it's not The Rock, is it Cody and Roman for night 2, or do you put Sami Zayn and let him overcome and become champion in that regard?
yeah. That's the most interesting because it depends on what's going to happen with the KO angle.
Yeah,
Because right now we're penciling him, um, Sammy and KO back together
yeah,
and taking out the Usos. And then, being the upsetting factor in the bloodline that what causes everything else to unravel. So depending on what happens with KO is pretty much going to tell us what they're thinking for Sammy.
yeah.
Would that be an epic moment with Sami Zayn beating Roman Reigns for the main event at WrestleMania? Huge, huge, blow the roof off. Sammy has been an MVP performer the past year doing this bloodline story. So all of us would have a Kofi Mania level pop when he pins the shoulders of Roman to the mat. So I would love it. You would love it. Everybody would love it. Um, but I'm waiting to see what's going to happen with this angle with KO because that's going to tell us what they're going to do with Sammy. And if things are going to fall through with The Rock, then Sammy is the next best choice. I know Cody's, aiming for it, and that's what they want us to see. So it's like a magic trick. You look over here, and then the actual trick is being done over here.
Yeah.
So um, I'm thinking they're putting Cody up as the obvious, road to redemption. Have his big moment at WrestleMania uh, option. This is what they want us to look at. In the meantime, um, the real magic tricks being happening down here, and how they're going to get Sammy to
His moment.
the title and get that huge moment because the roof would blow off the place if Sami Zayn ends up winning this thing.
And now I will play devil's advocate, is Sami Zayn better in chase mode than overcoming the odds, like a Daniel
Yeah,
Bryan? Because, like we look at Daniel Bryan, now granted, he had the injury angles afterwards, but um, I love Sami Zayn, and I'm not trying to disparage him being champion, Greg, but, we looked at Hangman's run, and, was Hangman better in chase mode and then became champion? Now, granted, I think they overbooked some of the stuff with him. So I would be curious what they could do with Sami Zayn after. Like, that's always the thing. What do you do? I mean, I hate just jumping right ahead, but it is all that idea of what could he do after the fact. So, uh,
mm-hmm.
but
Well,
I still think it had to be a WrestleMania moment that you're going to replay at WrestleMania 50 and 60, and Raw night after Mania and all that. So I'm not disagreeing with it. I just Sami Zayn, he won the NXT title, and then he gets taken out by KO and then loses it, I think, the next month. So we haven't really seen a real Sami Zayn world champion run too. So who knows
Yeah,
what it would be like.
I think that's the whole thing is that we get to the WrestleMania main event, and you can't just say go have the match of your lifetime and it happens, but say it does. That is going to put Sammy so mega over as being more than a court jester, more than just the funny guy. That's going to put him as the top of the mountain. He's the man who, beats Roman Reigns is going to be equivalent to the man who ended the streak
Yep.
of the Undertaker, and he's going to have that clout. He's going to have that street cred. Everybody's going to look at him differently. If he has an amazing match, we get a 5, 6, 7-star match out of Roman and Sammy ends up winning. He's is taking his punch. From just being a ancillary character to being a main character, and we're going to look at him that way as a main eventer, top of the card. Sammy, when it's go time, Sammy brings it, and he brought it. He beat Roman, and now that guy is the man, and so he's going to be an instant transformation if that happens.
I was thinking Jericho when Jericho won,
Mm-hmm.
beat The Rock and Stone Cold in the same night and gets both titles. Like I feel like that would be a good comparison to it, which I hate comparing that type of stuff. But Jericho was always right at that cusp, and that helped him, overcome that. So, or like Edge, Edge was always probably considered a minus B player, but then shows out and gets world title after world title, gets to hang with Cena, gets to hang with Undertaker and all, at that mid. I mean, it might as well have been the Edge show, right, from 2005, 6, 7 ish till 2010. I mean, Edge is always right there at the top of the card. So, I think that's where it'd be a good place to, a good comparison for Sami Zayn. We'll see. I mean, I don't think The Rock shows up at Rumble unless we get, like I said, I think you would have to do KO and Roman at the end as the main event because you don't throw The Rock. Oh, look, it's the second to last match. KO wins or Roman wins. Rock comes out, confronts them. Like you can't do that before the Rumble. Like that would
exactly.
The Rumble would have so much to live up to. I mean, you would have to have the the perfect Rumble, as they say, but or even and we can't even throw KO and Roman at the beginning unless you have KO asking for a type deal. But yeah, if Roman and KO main event Rumble, then The Rock is probably there. I think. So, but I didn't think The Rock was going to be at tomorrow night either. Honestly, I thought they would just have that as a precursor. Like everyone's acknowledging Roman and just keeping that there as a filler till The Rock comes to, say, I'm not going to acknowledge you. I'm going to whoop your ass type deal. You know what? Like, I didn't think The Rock would show up tomorrow night. But, anything else, Greg, for the better of the cause that you caught news-wise that you wanted to bring to the fold as well?
No, of course, the big thing was, the Briscoes and, we've heard the story about Vince settling with
One of the
one
refs?
referee.
Yeah.
So
Millions,
I think more is
right?
going down with that, and
I think it was millions. So that woman, good for her. I mean, probably sucks that whatever she had to deal with, but
right, but they can't now blow it off as it's all allegations. It's legit. It's
one is
been
legit at least.
actually settled, and where there's one, there are many more, and you've already had your proof with this one, and now you're more inclined to believe.
You got to think
the
Mickey.
ones who are filing suit.
I was gonna say, I think Mickey James is the wrestling talent, honestly, because there was a lot of smoke and fire with her right after that came out, and then she kind of put the eye emoji type deal, and when she was liking tweets about it. So because she kind of was up there at the card, and then all of a sudden she wasn't. So that makes you wonder, Greg. So,
Yeah.
let's take a quick commercial break and kind of get into Raw and NXT and SmackDown for the week. So let's get our first commercial break and get right into the in-ring action of the week. All right, so we did have Raw kickoff with the Bloodline with KO, as we tend to do, Greg, the past few weeks, but ends up with Mustafa Ali kind of coming out, taking out Solo, and but ends up eating a loss to him. Ali's a guy, Greg. I'm wondering if this might be a good year for him. He's just doing all of these stuff that's asked of him. He's kind of under the radar. Maybe he could kind of get over that hump finally and get the U.S. title or an IC title down the road. But Solo continues to do his best Umaga impression, Greg. Lays out KO with the splash on the table. Was that last week, I believe?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, tomorrow night we'll have the trial of Sami Zayn. We'll see if KO shows up for that, right, Greg? What do we think about Solo getting a good win over Mustafa Ali, and kind of thoughts on Ali? Do you think you're on any mindset as me, as maybe Ali gets some run down the road?
Someone, yeah. It seems like he's doing, the dirty jobs part of it, and taking his lumps, which you pay your dues before you get that push, and get your spot near the top of the charts. And this seems to be what he's doing. He's doing the grunt work. He's getting, that camera time's important. So if you're getting camera time, that's a good sign that they trust you and they're actually working on something for you. So even though he's taking L after L, you're on TV, you're getting work in, and they're giving you all those reps for a reason. So I could definitely see him, getting a tag title run, or a US or IC title run, later in the year. Not surprised at all to keep his Solo super strong, and they're setting him up for a hoss fight somewhere. I don't know where it is yet, but he's going to keep that. It could be. But they're saving that first L for something big. So I think while the Bloodline is still the hottest story, he's going to stay that way. But there's going to be some big clash in where he takes the first L. So that's something to look forward to. But both ends of the story here makes perfect sense.
Yep. I'm going to kind of combine these next two couple matches just because I had a couple thoughts, or had a thought on it. The Street Profits defeat Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin. You got to almost defeat Elias. Let's talk about the Hurt Business. I saw an interesting kind of picture, Greg, floating the rounds that maybe the Street Profits could be Hurt Business members. What do you think about that idea? I actually think, hell freaking yeah. I think, because I kind of think the Street Profits need to change a pace. And I don't, they've been kind of doing their thing. It's always it's always that idea that you try something else and then you see where that goes, and that turns the corner for them. They, not saying stale necessarily, Greg, but the crowd is not reacting to them. I don't think, because they're still into them. But I wonder what a pairing with MVP could do for them. and reinvent the Hurt Business. If you're not going to have Lashley in it, maybe MVP stops going after Lashley and says, "Hey, I'm going to get a new crop of talent," and goes after the Street Profits. They show up and they're pretty dressed to the nines at times, anyways, or at least Montez is. So you
Yeah.
let Angelo dress to the nines a couple times, Greg, and it could kind of do what Cedric and Shelton did. But I also think the Street Profits are on a higher plane. So, any thoughts on that? Like I said, we brought up Naomi last week for the Hurt Business. I mean, kind of reinventing the Hurt Business might be the best idea to do now.
Yeah. I think I probably saw the same picture you saw that had the reimagined Hurt Business with Shelton and Cedric, the Street Profits, almost Lashley, and MVP.
Hmm.
So that's a huge stable if
Yeah.
you're gonna do something like that. But I would be here for it. I would definitely be here for it. You know how huge a Street Profits fan I am, but lately they've fallen flat and they've lost their juice that they had when they first came out of NXT and for the first year or so after coming out of NXT, and they're just kind of now another tag team, and they're a special team.
Yeah.
Um, but they definitely need something.
Mhm.
So if Bianca is not going to start coming down to the ring with him, um, I would love to see Street Profits as heels, and put them into the Hurt Business, have the Hurt Business just be full on heels. That could be the team that supplants the Hurt Business, or not the Hurt Business, that supplants the Bloodline
Yeah.
as the top faction
Mhm.
in WWE. So uh, it could be huge. It would be definitely a great change of pace as far as recalibrating the Street Profits and giving them their teeth back, their swagger back, and heel swagger. And I could looking forward to seeing what the Street Profits would look like with heel swagger. So, um, absolutely on board with it, and I hope we get some version of that. And even if Lashley isn't involved, just having all those members plus MVP to run it would be great. And also, if you're not going to include him having to bring just young up and comers, Cedric and Shelton have been along a long time, but
Yeah.
so you keep almost in there, you keep the Profits in there, and then after WrestleMania, you bring up Trick and Mello, you put them in there.
Yeah.
How amazing would that be? So um, there's so much opportunity to make the Hurt Business even better than it was when he first debuted it. So no, I say yes to all of it. Bring it on, and let's see a new stable and keep them doing, you know, the old Hurt Business way. The strength in numbers, but you know, giving all these guys equal time to shine.
And a new footing. So, Judgment Day defeats Alpha Academy. I don't know, Greg. I would still like to see the Judgment Day beat the Usos at Raw 30 for the Raw Tag Team Championships. Because on SmackDown they keep saying SmackDown, and I think you could still tout the Usos' historic run in a way because technically they wouldn't have lost both tag titles; they would just have lost one, and you still keep the other tag team titles on them. But the Judgment Day have earned it, Greg. And then, like I said, you do a Freebird rule with them somehow, letting Dom be the one to get it. I love that idea, but I'm highly questioning it. The Usos have been on such a tear, but it's going to be a match to watch tomorrow because we really have I don't think we've ever seen the Judgment Day and the Usos kind of go at it yet. So I'm really curious to see which direction we go with that. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm all for it. I think that's what's going to happen actually. So I'm calling my shot now. I think the Judgment Day are going to beat the Usos, and there can be some chicanery happening in there. Rhea gets involved, or Finn gets in a shot, or whatever happens. But the Judgment Day is a lot more together, heel fashion than the Bloodline is right now, when things getting more and more fractured, as we saw on SmackDown that we're talking about. But all the pieces are in place. to, take the Raw titles, bring them back to Raw, and, give the Judgment Day that love, and, absolutely Freebird rule it. It's been done plenty of times. Um, going back as recently as the New Day. So no reason why they wouldn't. And the only thing I don't like about it is that, I brought up an idea of last week of, you know, Pierce forcing the split of
instead of
the undisputed
maybe losing it.
title, and saying, as a punishment for interrupting my shows every week, now you're going to have to defend each set of titles individually, and telling Roman that, telling the Usos that, and establish himself as an authority, a real authority, instead of just being the goof that comes out from backstage and yells at people, and they just do the opposite anyway. So missed opportunity there, and they're just allowing, saying this is for the Raw titles without any explanation. But whatever, it is what it is. Just do it. Let the Judgment Day get the titles, and
let them roll
that's going to make
as champions.
right.
And probably get past Raw or past WrestleMania because you don't have a short title. Meat Chin defeated Io Sky. It looks like we're getting Meat Chin and Candice LeRae teaming together against Io Sky and Dakota Kai down for the tag team or women tag team titles. I'm fine with that. Nothing really there for the women tag team titles right now, is there, Greg?
No, and it looks like we're starting to get into. We put out a wish for the judge or Damage Control to just go on their merry way, and sounds like that's what Becky Lynch was planting the seed for. Talking to Io and Dakota, how long is it going to be until she turns on you? Having that speech and having those two kind of side eye each other, and they kind of look over at Bailey, real subtle, like, but it was there, and so we may be getting our wish sooner than we expected.
But then again, the steel cage match, they always say nobody gets in, but somebody always gets in. So
yeah,
that could be a red hair. That could be a decoy there too. That Io and Dakota, give Bailey something, throw in a chair or something like that to help her win, or help her get out for a minute and get a chair or something. But unless they bring up the old you can escape to win type, they go back and forth, Greg. Sometimes they tell us pinfall or submission only, and then sometimes they say you can escape to win. So that's how. For some reason, I feel my memory is horrible this week. But is the steel cage match tomorrow night, or is that a Rumble? I feel like it's tomorrow night.
It's at Raw 30.
So it's
gonna be tomorrow night.
Okay. I think they were trying to build it up, so that's why. But I feel like we'll get some shenanigans in that, obviously. So.
Sure.
Bronson Reed rolled Greg over Akira Tozawa. No big surprise there. And then finally, Bobby Lashley won a match to get the U.S. title opportunity. I would have loved Greg to go the opposite. I would rather, I think I brought this last week too, giving 6 guys that never had the U.S. title in this match. But, instead we went the opposite. We went everybody's a former champion. It is what it is. Do we think Lashley gets a title off Theory, though?
Right now, I say no.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it. And I think with this, it sounds like it was setting the scene for the Hurt Business reformation, because, during that match, MVP came down.
Yeah.
And I forgot who he came down with, but I want to say he came down with Omos. And it seems like that's where they're going to pivot Lashley into. So I think it's still all Theory right now. But this match should be great inside a great title match on Raw 30, and keep building up Theory.
Yeah, and if we're not getting Theory and Cena, even though the rumblings out there are that Cena and Theory supposedly filmed a segment at some at the SmackDown at the end of the year, I still think maybe Edge and Theory, maybe have Theory start calling out that ruthless aggression era type guys or something like that.
Mhm.
So yeah, so it should be interesting there. But how about some NXT stuff? Apollo Crews and Axiom, our new tag team. They defeated Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. I think, Greg, I'm going to go the another way with Carmelo and Trick, that they would join Hit Row. Now that Hit Row has been, gaining
Mhm.
steam, healing it up, maybe Raw after, or night after Mania, maybe Carmelo and Trick show up for them somehow, or maybe Carmelo by himself. Who's to say we might not keep Trick Williams down there, just give him more time down there. Ultimately, I think Carmelo's going to be huge anyway, Greg. Um,
Mhm.
and it looks like, I guess I'm not going to get my Frazier and Axiom tag team, unfortunately. I think he's back in the UK, probably, getting work visa stuff all sorted out. But Apollo Crews and Axiom as tag team going forward, sure. I mean, what else is
Yeah.
there? I I've been very up and down on Apollo Crews, and I probably still am. There's times I'm like, man, I see it, Greg, but then I don't know, the character work just never hits. I feel it. We got this writing in a book and whatnot. I get, it feels like a vision board. I'm waiting for him to pull that out or something, or maybe he'll start being
Mhm.
That's So Raven, where she used to have the eye twitch and she'd see vision, she'd see the visions, uh, type stuff. But I'm sure our younger viewers are like, "What the hell is Grandpappy Steven talking about on this podcast?" But anyways, yeah. So I like Carmelo maybe being with Hit Row, especially since he's shown like he's got a leadership quality about him.
Mhm.
He could take that swerve spot easily. So even though they're really touting Top Dollar, Greg, and that could be something to watch too. But um, any thoughts on the first match there?
Well, it was an opening match. It's
Yeah.
you know Axiom and Apollo. Okay, it was it is what it is. It was a good match, but I like the idea of Carmelo and Trick in Hit Row,
Mhm.
because looking at Hit Row, I love the fact that they made them heels, but without Swerve, it's not the same. It
Yeah.
doesn't have that same vibe. It doesn't have that same feel, and there's no one who's as natural on the mic as he was, and they need that person, and Carmelo could definitely be that guy.
Yeah.
And then with Trick in there with him, they're back in way they play off each other would be excellent. Um, and then you have Top Dollar who could just stand there and brood and be the muscle. Um, Ashante just kind of posing all the time, and BFAB just try to do her ghetto girl vibe thing, and it would be much, much better. And people would, tune in more closely with, somebody who's so natural and charismatic on the mic as Carmelo, because, Top Dollar's not it, and Shantae's not it as far as that aspect goes. They need, that front man. They're a band with no singer. So, um, Carmelo is a definite lead singer, and that would fit perfectly.
Yep.
So I love the idea, and I think this is just a way with these little rivalries with Axiom and Apollo, just to kind of bide the time until after WrestleMania, where they debut, because there's nothing left for Carmelo to do, uh, except wait out the next 60 days until Raw after Mania, and then we get to see him. So,
Yep. Yep. And how about Alba Fire? We think we see her on the main roster soon. Feels like she's, I'm guessing her and Ela Dawn do some gimmick match to write her off. Sol Ruka picks up a good win though. Looks like they're pretty high on her. But we really haven't talked about Alba Fire, on the main roster. But um, I'd like to see her get there. I feel like they're slowly easing her out as well. So
mhm.
after night after Mania, maybe Bianca Belair needs a new challenger. Throw Alba Fire literally to the fire, Greg.
I like that idea. And I agree with you that Alba's in the same boat as Carmelo. Is there's nothing left for her to do. I like the rivalry going on with Isla Dawn. Um, just leave Isla there to get the people familiar with her a little bit more and how she acts and what she does, and let Alba come up. But what my idea is if you dye her hair all black,
Mm-hmm.
who do you have?
Alba Fire. If you dye
Yeah,
her hair all black,
yeah. Imagine her character with her hair dyed
huh,
jet black,
not sure. Who is it?
and put her in the Wyatt family.
Huh?
Like I said,
Want
the
her
Wyatt
sister
sticks.
Abigail?
I want her as Sister Abigail, and I think she fits that image. Just
Okay.
um, albino white jet black hair and the veil. That is more Alba Fire
Yeah.
with black hair than it is Alexa Bliss.
Mhm.
So I think once we get the reformed uh, Wyatt family, that she would be much better in that role than Alexa Bliss is. I know that's what they're angling for Alexa, a return to evil Alexa, but um, again, it could be another magic trick.
Yeah.
Look over here, but do
Something
it,
else
Sister
brewing.
Abigail trick is down here. And I think she would fit the role a whole lot better. Um, it's because we've seen it, been there, done that with Alexa, with Alba in that role. What have we got here? And it would be more interesting to watch. So that's what I would do with her if it was up to me. But yeah, I think she's definitely ready for the main roster and add some more, clout and veteran experience up there.
Especially, when you get Dewdrop back, if you want her to reinvigorate. I think her and Alba Fire are best friends outside the ring break, so you could always do a return with them, kind of, holding them together. But Gallus defeated Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs. We're going to get Gallus, Pretty Deadly, and New Day at Vengeance Day. That's a moneymaker match, isn't it?
I like it. I like it.
Yep.
It would definitely be a fun match. Pretty deadly, and the New Day already shown they can have a banger by themselves and
Mhm.
throw Gallus in there. It would be great.
And you can have
Um,
Gallus still end up beating Pretty Deadly to get the titles if you want to protect New Day.
True. Hmm.
So, what else? Thea Hale picked up a win. I think we're going to get the Thea Hale celebration next week for her first victory. That
Yeah, it
should
must be
be
nice. One win and you get a party.
one win. You get
So
a ceremony.
yeah,
So, and then Tyler Bate back. He beat Big Body Javi Greg. Still playing up the White Christmas album. What's our thoughts on Big Body Javi? Is he doing anything for you?
no, he's way too corny. He's like Austin Theory was during the Way era.
It's like
Um,
it's like they don't really know what to do, but they're just trying it, I guess.
right. So he's probably just trying different ideas and throwing stuff at the wall, see what sticks. And
Yeah.
I do think he and that blonde backstage announcer
Yes.
are going to end
Kenzie.
up being a pair.
I think she's helping it out.
Right.
So
So, around June, they're going to be a real couple and, doing couple stuff. And that may, like I said, it's going to help him get over.
yeah.
And they could, if they do it right, they could end up being something fun to
Now
watch.
that's the only downfall. Who thought you need a backstage announcer to help you get over? That's probably not a great thing, Greg. But I mean, hey, sometimes Otis needed Mandy Rose to get over, so just
Right.
need a hot blonde to get you over. But Roxanne Perez and Lyra Valkyra defeated Toxic Attraction. I was kind of surprised with that, Greg, because do you want Roxanne just showing she can just beat them already? I mean, I guess we do have a couple weeks left, so you can still have, Gigi and JC take her out, but or my brain is rattling. Could we see a double pin where both ladies are on top of Roxanne and they're not sure who's the champion, so they just vacate the championship and let Roxanne win it again or something? Or both women. Do we get like cool for a month or two? I mean, uh, it is Shawn Michaels, it's Triple H, Greg. Who knows? They might have ideas that this could work.
I hope not. That
Yeah.
that would be not a good ending scenario right there. I never put much stock into tag team matches as far as when the champ gets pinned or the champ gets the pin over the next contender because it was a tag match. Um, so it's just a good way to get some shine for Lyra. Lyra, I don't know how you say her name either. Valkyria. Um, for them to get the win over Toxic Attraction didn't play up the fracturing of Toxic Attraction. So I think that's the whole point is
That could, yeah.
to put that
Like
rift
they'll
in
fight
there
over
and
each other who will get the pin.
right.
Yeah.
So could end up being there.
Or Roxanne probably pins both of them. Like she could do a roll up, because she's not the biggest girl, so she can't do
Right.
the stack and pin them type deal. But she could do like a
Yeah.
schoolboy on both or schoolgirl on both of them, right? School person on both of them and kind of get a win at
Yep.
Vengeance Day. So, yeah. And then next up, we had a lot happening on SmackDown. We could talk about the SmackDown tag team titles. We had Drew and Sheamus, the Bang Bros. We'll still keep calling them that until WWE realizes that yes, there is a adult website out there. I mean, if they make Submission Sisters change your name, Greg, I can't imagine Bang Bros will be official name. But Imperium picks up a win and Legado picks up a win. So we have all those teams. We saw Brawling Brutes back, so that's good to see. Saw Maximum Male Models. I know, Greg, I probably would have given them the win over Legado, but that's just me. We've seen Legado, obviously get in tag team title pictures, so I think they're fine if they would have eaten one loss, for Maximum Male Models. But so Drew, Sheamus, Imperium, and Legado moving ahead. It's looking like Drew and Sheamus all the way, but there's probably going to be a hiccup in the road, right?
I see them getting or winning this tournament.
Okay.
The most interesting aspect of it was going to be if
Brawling Brutes.
Brawling Brutes had won and they had met in the finals with Drew and Sheamus.
Yeah.
So, and even Michael Cole alluded to it that if it happens, they beat each other's brains out and then go have a beer. So, looking at the brackets, I thought that's what was going to happen, and then you had the Brutes lose. So, it looks to me like it's going to be Drew and Sheamus against Imperium, and the Banger Bros or whatever they're going to call them are going to end up winning.
LA Knight, your dude, gave a little local competitor a match, and then we saw the Firefly Funhouse return. So I am still very intrigued by this pitch black match, Greg.
Yeah, let's
Yeah,
get it, man. I'm so excited for it. It's going to be fun to watch. Like I said, you said last week, it's probably going to be something cinematic. I can definitely see that, but it has to end by pinfall submission, so it's going to be some live in ring action. So, um, but yeah, they've been very vague on the rules. I'm sure for a reason.
yeah.
So,
Specifically,
and
I,
I'm excited to see it because like I said, my guy is in it, LA Knight, and he's getting a huge spotlight put on him by being the guy opposite Bray Wyatt. It's going to help him get Mega over. And, all you need is an excellent match and, both guys win. So
you got to wonder. You probably have somebody trying to rein in, Bray in LA, because I'm sure they got notebooks of of ideas for this match. So,
sure.
I also forgot to mention Hit Row picked up the win, so we do have Hit Row moving on as well. Sonya, attacks Charlotte Flair. It looks like we'll get Sonya and Charlotte probably at Royal Rumble. That's fine. Um, how are we liking the babyface side of Charlotte, Greg?
Yeah, it won't last long.
But then again, you have Lacey Evans coming back, and it almost seems like a Sergeant Slaughter role, right? So
That's what I was thinking.
I'm gonna assume we're going to keep Charlotte as face. I don't know if you want Lacey coming back as a strong heel, and then you have Charlotte as sometimes it just doesn't. I don't know if they'd work together as heel versus heel, right?
Right. Yeah.
So,
That's what I was thinking too. She's going to be the female Sergeant Slaughter.
yeah.
The thing is, how are they going to respond to her when she comes out this time? Because last time she came out after all this, military buildup, the people booed her out the building.
I think that's why. I think that's why you're going to have to make her a Sergeant Slaughter. I hate saying it. Well, she's not going to talk down her military background. That'd be a good way to do it, But I think you're going to have to, maybe she just. I don't know. Like I said, I was thinking, disparage USA, which is the easiest tactic anyway, Greg. But I don't think she truly wants to go that route, which makes sense. But
right, absolutely.
Yeah, we don't have an Iranian commander to book her with, do we? Muhammad Hassan, is he still around? He could be her
I'm
roommate.
sure he's somewhere. He could be had for a few bucks, I'm sure.
He could come back. So. But yeah, we're really sticking. We're really trying things with Lacey, aren't we? Though.
Yeah, she's worth it. She's great in the ring, and the problem is she's just had such bad gimmicks. She did the Southern Belle thing in NXT, and it was over for a little while, and then we got tired of it. And then she tried to do the same thing when she came up to the main roster, and everybody was like, blah.
I think the Ric Flair thing really ruined for her. Like that. Yeah. So probably the best thing ever was getting pregnant when she did, Greg, because who knows where she'd be now after that angle. I think that's kind of where people soured. And of course, she did team with Baron Corbin against Becky and Seth for a little bit, so that was something. So, but I think
all she's had is horrible storylines, and they need to rebuild because she's definitely worth it in the ring. Once we get past all the weird stuff they're giving her to perform, so just let her be more herself.
Took a while for Baron Corbin to find his footing, so she's kind of following that same trajectory. So yeah, and then of course Kevin Owens attacks Roman Reigns. Probably the closing shot was funny to see Sami Zayn holding that contract, right, Greg?
Right.
Does he sign his name to it? After his trial, what do we think happens in the trial? Are they going to give him some leniency one last time, Greg?
I missed the whole story about the trial, so I don't even know what the trial angle is.
I think it literally just got thrown together that it's Roman Reigns putting Sami Zayn on trial for his miscomings and seeing where he's going to go because of that. I think they kind of threw it together because, like we said, we're not getting the acknowledgement ceremony now. So it makes you wonder, who they couldn't get for that. But now this will be a trial of Sami Zayn. It's not going to be the little people's court. This will probably be a legit, trial case where Roman Reigns is judge, jury, and executioner, right?
Right. Well,
I wonder if they'll make Sami Zayn be in his corner at Royal Rumble, and then we'll have to see if he helps Roman retain the title or does he cost Roman a win. I think that's ultimately where it's going to go.
Yeah,
that's his last chance.
Well, first of all, this whole angle with the contract signing, we've seen, if we haven't seen one, we've seen a million contract signings. So love this one just because they did something different finally. By having Roman and Solo and Heyman come in and set up shop in the ring and, throw the feet on the table and, act like they own the place. And just having Kevin come through the crowd, drop everybody, sign the contract, and bang out. Genius. Did not see that coming. You expect he comes out, they sit at the table, they cut a promo on each other, and then the table gets flipped and, most likely KO takes the beat down. And, totally what I expected to see, but, we did something completely different and it came off fresh and new and a way to swerve us and swerve the bloodline. Genius. Plus having Sammy come out way too late to help out. I gave Sammy a pass because of the orders Roman gave him before the segment happened. Set up the plane, set up the limo, get the Usos, and let's get out of town. And so that's the only pass I can give to Sammy about why he was so late coming out. Maybe it's not taking care of the other stuff, but the fact that he came out so long, much longer after KO wasted everybody else. And he's standing there holding the bag or holding the contract in this case, while Kevin's waving at him from the audience. But now it makes sense why they're putting him on trial. They're going to be like, okay, where were you? And why didn't you, help out and all this stuff? So makes perfect sense. Everything is
right there. It's
yeah,
coming.
It's great. Loving what they're doing. It makes perfect sense. Thank God Triple H is in control, and these storylines have a flow. We can follow it, and it's easy to see. And I don't think it may be a bit different if Vince is still being in control. So bless you, Triple H. But loving this, and we'll definitely that Sammy Court will be the highest viewed segment of the whole Raw 30. I'm sure of it. So I'm excited to see it.
All right, so there we go. That was SmackDown. We'll do our commercial break next and get into AEW stuff, and then wrap up the show and get you ready for another conference championship Sunday. All right, so bring up some of the in-ring action that I didn't put off to the side, Greg, about the Hangman Page and Renee segment, because I thought that was very interesting with what he said and where we were going with that. So we had Orange Cassidy defeat Jay Lethal to retain his title. Nice kind of harken back that bringing up Jay Lethal had beaten Orange Cassidy before. So not sure who's next for Orange Cassidy. It looks like we're still kind of doing Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal and Sanja against, Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. So we'll probably still keep playing that. They were all in the front row. You had Danhausen steal the guitar and whatnot. And that was that, right?
That was that. Good match between Orange and Jay Lethal, though.
In all the chaos.
Right, and providing all the backstory was a nice touch. In case you didn't see the earlier Lethal and Orange Cassidy match, so it's fine setting up these groups against each other because everything doesn't have to be a main event. You need to build these characters and build these stories and get exposure for people who the younger kids who don't know who Jeff Jarrett is or haven't watched the Jeff Jarrett matches and stuff like that. So same thing with Sanjay and the whole posse with them. So they need the rest for the new kids.
Sorry, Top Flight. Speaking of new kids, win, defeated, beat, were victorious, won
Right.
against the Young Bucks. Kind of interesting. The Young Bucks are so interesting to me, Greg. How they could just, like people say, they have no ring psychology. F that. They were, they play up their roles no matter what the match calls for. They can heel it up in a match. They can face it up in a I mean, they literally have ring psychology. So, that storyline has to go away or whatever. That epitaph about them needs to go away. But I did not see Top Flight winning, especially like they brought up. And now, granted, you have the out that the Young Bucks were still hurting from the last match, and not wrestling a tag match in 6 months, and so you could still give them a little bit of out, but you also give the Top Flight a huge win, and that's what the Young Bucks want to do, Greg. I wrote, that's they're kind of they've both said they're not sure, where their time's left. It's weird that singles wrestlers, Greg, keep going years after their expiration date, but now we have FTR saying they want some time away. You have the Young Bucks maybe slowing down, whatnot, like these tag teams. But then again, tag teams put themselves through a lot of wear and tear. So, how about the
Sure.
win for Top Flight though here?
Yeah, that was impressive. This was a excellent match. Excellent
Mhm.
match. Just four high flyers doing what they do, and yeah, I was a little surprised that Top Flight got the win. I was expecting, the traditional, all out, just fist flying, feet flying, and mega effort, and 5-star match, and we got that. But usually, the vets win, the Bucks win the match, and it didn't happen. Top Flight won, and so I was very surprised and happy to see that. Um, Now I hope they do something with it because they did the same thing at the beginning of AEW when Private Party beat the Young Bucks,
Mhm.
and nothing came of that. So um, they're doing it again. Another promising tag team. Looks great, moves great, and like you said, their psychology in the ring was awesome. It was definitely on point. They told a story, and it was great. And I hope they can do something with Top Flight and and not let that win go to waste the way they did with Private Party. So shout out to all four of them for putting on a serious banger, and congrats Top Flight. So it was an epic match.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they'll. I hate saying fly under the radar, but this is like that big win for them, and then they'll just slowly kind of chip away and pick up wins here and there. I don't know if
Hmm.
we'll necessarily see them in the tag team title picture right away, Greg, but you know, maybe Revolution they get a title shot, or maybe Double or Nothing they finally overcome it. So Ricky Starks pinned Jake Hager. We're going to get Ricky Starks and Action Andretti against Jericho and Sammy Guevara because Garcia lost on Rampage in his leather pants, his sports entertainment pants, Greg. So um, Ricky Starks and Andrade get the win over Garcia, whatever we're calling them, Garcia, Chris Dan
Garcia Co.
Garcia Coast. Sorry, there you go. I knew it was something. Did they get the win over them?
Well, hmm, no, because I think it's going to be now that Garcia lost, that it's going to be Sammy and Jericho,
Does that
uh,
start a
the
splinter
Sex Gods.
with maybe Garcia and Sammy Guevara after finally? So
Right.
yeah,
Um, so it's going to be fun. I think this is a great platform to get action off the ground, and
mhm,
you know the, the Jericho Appreciation Society doing make a great job of putting over the young talent,
yeah.
much better than the BCC has, and pretty much any other faction in the company right now. So shout out, props to them. But yeah, it should be a banger of a match on Wednesday.
Brian Danielson keeps picking up wins. MJF called him out and said, "You don't know what you're bringing out of me." So, yeah, I guess normally I know Iron Man matches have their lull. It should be interesting to see how they can keep us invested in that the whole time. Because
Right.
60 minutes is a long, we're used to 10, 15, 20-minute at the most, even on a pay per view night, Greg. You know, other than WrestleMania giving us a little longer matches, we don't really have we're not used to 60 minutes. So you're going to have to do a lot to really keep the crowd invested because sometimes they do have their lulls. So,
Mm-hmm.
and now Brian Danielson will face Brian Cage um, next up. So we'll see how that um, keeps going for Brian Danielson, right? We'll see. Come on. I don't know if he's ever fought Brian Cage. I'd be very curious to know there if they've ever had any in-ring action against each other. Because I know they obviously never crossed paths WWE. Uh, Ring of Honor wise, I can't imagine them ever crossing paths because Brian Cage was always kind of an independent guy. So I'm kind of
Yep.
wondering if this is a first time meeting ever of them.
Yep. And I like the idea of MJF putting in the bounty on Danielson, just paying Cage to break his arm.
Yep. So
And
even if he doesn't win, maybe he just hurts him enough.
right. So, I like that angle too, because I think we all know that Danielson's going to win, but, we have some after the bell shenanigans and, do the old arm into the steel chair, bit,
Yep.
run it into the ring post or smash it with something, you know, and just add to it that way. And maybe he does break his arm and, he has to go into the match with a broken arm and, it's easy for MJF.
Just
So
keep
I
going
like
after that
the,
arm.
right. So, and his finishing moves and armbar makes perfect sense. So, we're paint by numbers storytelling right here. I'm enjoying it.
Mhm. Looks like we got a new heel team, Greg. Tony Storm and Saraya. Is the timing right for that though? Because you still have Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter on the heel side too.
Yeah, and that's the only problem is that it seems it's a weird timing. I mean, I get the whole animosity from the Hikaru Shida
Yeah, Sheeta.
standpoint,
Mhm.
why she'd be mad, but why turn Tony and Saraya heel? You know, Saraya's already said she loves playing the heel, and I get that, but it's time and place for everything, and that seemed to be the wrong time, wrong place. And now with Britt and Jamie still being on the heel side too, um, it doesn't fit unless they're planning on turning Britt and Jamie to baby
Face.
faces.
Yeah.
So that's the only reason I could see why they're doing this is that they're going to pivot Britt and Jamie
Yeah.
um, and just delay their breakup.
And heck, this is
So
almost AEW's version of damage control for a bit, right? Because you had
yeah,
Saraya with Tony Storm, who's Australian, and then you have Sheeta, who's Japanese, and then you have damage control with Io and Dakota. So with Bailey, so interesting crossing paths there. But yeah, I was kind of surprised. I mean, I guess you don't have to say it's necessarily heel turn. Maybe just said they were tired of. I don't know. I mean, I feel like I guess you have to because you did have Sheeta make the save as a face, a baby face. So. But like you
yeah,
said, it just seems weird. They're almost at the parallel. I mean, I assume we were going to turn Jamie face at some point. So
right.
maybe Britt ends up in the good graces with them, with Tony and Saraya.
Well, I think they form a new Bad Girls Club for sure.
Yeah.
Um, Britt, Saraya, and
The
Tony
enemy of my
Storm.
enemy.
Yeah, they make up the new Batgirl Club, and then Jamie and Sheeta.
Almost like the beautiful
Uh,
people. Wasn't that a
right,
homage, right, to Impact
and
Day?
then throw Ruby into the mix with the other three, and then
Yeah.
yeah, there you
Got some
go.
triple threats. So. And then Darby Allen defeated Kushida. Really solid match. Good debut for Kushida. Not sure if he's going to be all elite, Greg, but he did. They both kind of signaled they wanted to do it again. So
Yeah,
I do wonder if Kushida will be all elite sooner rather than later.
absolutely. This was the only match on this card that I put. that I gave a star rating to because,
Okay.
like I said, I'm still taking
Your hand. Oh, look at that! The
diligent
handy dandy
notes.
notebook.
Yes, it is. Taking notes on everything, and instead of just recording the results of everything, like making notes of
Yeah.
specific things or what outstanding matches there are, because there's so much filler and junk these days, or especially this month. It's just being kind of a lackluster month
But
as
that's
far as
usually. I feel like that's usually the way it goes these first couple months.
yeah.
When Dan
But
gives us
that
that big
match,
fat paycheck, Greg, we'll hire a research department.
there you go. But yeah, that match was epic. It was a great match. And if it was scored on points, Kushida would have won because he controlled most of that
Oh,
match. He looked great. He had the advantage almost at every turn, and Darby did what Darby does, and
yeah,
he found the way to squeak out the win.
yeah. Which
But
that's how they've always played up Darby, though.
yeah, but Kushida would have won the match otherwise. If it was a UFC fight like that great pay-per-view we had last night, um, Kushida would have won on rounds easily. So shout out Kushida. He looked amazing, and it was a great match. So they got to run it back because it was that good.
And then finally, I do want to bring, like I said, Greg. Sometimes we bring up backstage stuff. Most times it just kind of, leads into things. But this one I thought was telling, and I took this from Bleacher Report where they said, backstage Hangman Page told Renee Paquette that he meant fences, kept it vague, and he even said, "I know you know somebody," and my mind went straight to Punk. It wasn't Moxley because he already gave the thing, he told, hey, tell Moxley, blah, blah, blah. But then he also said, I have to mend fences and I know you know somebody. And then said, well, wait, oh, wait. And that's Punk because we got to think the backstage show was CM Punk and Renee Young and Saraya and Samoa Joe type deal, Greg. So we're getting Punk back. Now, I don't think it's good team man Page, but there's too many telling signs now, right?
Yeah, and this is kind of what I've been thinking of the whole time is that Punk is going to be back sometime this year.
Yeah.
So not this first, I think All In's the first.
No,
Revolution. Okay, Revolution. So whatever it's the next quarterly pay-per-view after Revolution is probably where we're going to see Punk again. Yeah. And there's plenty of time now to lay that groundwork and get that ball rolling as far as how we're going to reintroduce him, and stuff like this is going to be that entry point. So what I expected all along, but it's just a matter of how they're going to do it. And yeah, Punk was, for the short time he was there, he was still a big money maker. He was still, brought more eyeballs, and when he comes back, you're going to have that pop again and that boost in the ratings and things like that. So, and then anytime he stands in the ring with the microphone in his hand, we're going to be glued because of all the stuff that's just happened over this last year. So, it's the right thing to do as long as he can get everything in order, with the boys backstage, because that's real heat, that's real beef, and Tony needs to handle that to make it work. So,
there's still
but
some
it's best
mileage.
for everybody.
There's still some mileage left on Punk.
Yeah.
Now, how much mileage is left? We'll see. So,
and we know this time we're not going to get shiny, happy Punk when he comes back. We're going to get pissed off Punk, and scores are going to be settled straight away instead of having the CM Punk gratification tour for the first 6 months after he comes back. So that's going to be something else to look forward to.
All right, and then finally some stuff from we got some stuff ready for Rampage that we finished up, or we will cook into Dynamite, but Jungle Boy picked up a win, Greg, with an Ethan Page and Matt Hardy won a challenge Jungle Hook. So that tag match is set for Dynamite. So Jungle Hook will be more than one night, Greg. 2 nights only. I think we kind of assumed so. But I think you want to talk up Eddie Kingston, right?
Yeah.
we're going to see a heel Eddie Kingston, which we haven't seen yet. So I think that's going to be cool to watch. And like you said, this won't be smiley, happy Eddie Kingston. This is going to be the heel Eddie Kingston, and I think that's going to give him a whole new turn and new crop of field of guys to work with. So,
Mhm.
talk to us about that.
Yeah, Eddie is hinged already as in his current role. So
Yeah,
how much more can he turn it up as
that's
a legit heel? That's what I'm looking forward to seeing. He's already tried to pour gas on somebody and set them on fire.
true.
So, give me more of that, Eddie. I want to see that. Um, like Eddie is the realest guy probably in the company, and everybody loves it because we recognize that, and he reminds us of a family member, whether it's an uncle or a cousin or whoever. There's somebody in the family that he reminds us of, and that's that relatability that we give them, and every time we see him, he brings that memory back. So um, I love it, and let him heal it up. And I love that they used the whole House of Black angle with him wanting to hit Julia Hart with a chair when we know it was a smoke and mirrors with House of Black, putting her in position to, have one guy duck and her being standing there, and Ortiz see that moment instead of seeing the original moment. But they didn't play it back on the Tron, and he didn't attempt to explain it. So, he's embracing the fact that, apparently nobody has a ability to see the replay
Yeah.
and just go off of that and use that for the heel turn. So we get a bloody, gutty match with Ortiz and Kingston, and then with Kingston and the rest of the good guy locker room. Let's go get it.
Darby Allin called out Buddy Matthews. So we're going to get Buddy Matthews and Darby Allin next week for the TNT title. A good match for Buddy Matthews to finally get a title shot. Greg, I feel like it's been a while since we've kind of seen him involved in something like that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And he's really haven't seen him as a individual
Singles, yep.
in a singles match. So he's always in a tag or in a trios match. So and we know from his WWE days that when he can go in the ring as a solo performer. So I'm excited for the match. Of course, I don't think he's going to win the match, and Darby set this up as I'm challenging them all. I need to settle the score with these guys. So he's going to try to single-handedly go through the House of Black. So is he going to make it or is he not going to make it? But so I'm looking forward to this set of matches that he's setting up for himself.
And then like I brought up, Brian Cage picked up a win. Action Andretti picked up a win. Jade picks up a win with the tag team. She's already calling it out, Greg. Who's going to be 50?
I thought by now there would be a obvious
There's probably not.
number 50, but I'm going to give you a name though.
Okay.
And I don't know what's going on with her, and maybe there's more to it than we all know. But there is a name that we haven't seen or heard from in a long time, so it would be the perfect person for number 50, and I'm going to give you Chris Statlander.
Let that
I don't know
fully.
how.
Yeah,
I don't
I
know how
thought
long it's been since we've seen her, but
yeah, she was in. But she's been in. Was she injured?
I think she has been injured.
But I felt like she's on the mend, right? I mean, you would think
Right.
she's got to be on
I think
the mend by now.
that's the reason nobody's talked about her or mentioned her, or
Yep.
there's nowhere in their rankings or anything like that. And it would be a great return moment. It just saved that 50 for Revolution and have a mystery opponent and have her be the mystery opponent.
Does she win?
I think she does.
Yeah. I think
the streak
49
ends at 49. Yeah.
Yeah. like you said, especially her coming back. Like I don't know, because I mean she's overcome a slew of injuries, Greg. I think she's tore one knee, then it's the other knee, then was or ACL. I mean, she's had just a history, not history, but there's been just some bad luck on her side. So, yeah, I think I like that idea. I thought you were going to say Thunder Rosa, actually.
No, Statlander makes more sense from a
It's
size
a storyline
perspective,
and
power.
storyline, right? Because she's always
Yeah, and then after she gets that one win, it's going to set off Jade, and that's going to lead to a series of matches. And
or
I
pushes
think
Jade
that
up
would
into that next. She can go off to the real title, the women's title. So.
right.
All right, well, on one more commercial break, and then I'll do my last call about Raw 30, and then we'll wrap up shop.
What is up, everybody? It's your boy Dan over at BWSPORTS1.com and Black and White Sports. And I'm wondering if you're ready to buy or sell that home, now's the time, and I got just the person for you. Mr. Sean Nugent, a.k.a. Rockstar Realtor himself. 317-503-8322. Put that home on the market. Get into your dream home with this man. Talk to Sean at Talk to Tucker today, 317-503-8322, and make sure you tell him the boys over at BWSports1.com sent you.
All right, Greg, let's just give a nice congratulations to Raw for 30 years. I forget the exact date. That is crazy to think.
Amazing.
My heyday of watching it, I mean, Stone Cold Steve Austin, man, those moments I'll never forget them type deal. But, Raw has given us many, many moments, matches, memories. I think, Greg, if we ever had the chance, we should just do a show on that because there's no way we can wrap it up in one little last call segment. But it's crazy to think, I do love that they don't really use that title anymore, the longest episodic show unless they need to. But still one of those. It just keeps going, and it'll keep going even past when we might not be here, Greg. But crazy to think it's 30 years
Right.
of Raw. So TV shows sometimes only are lucky to get 1 year, one season. So and just just to watch that first episode at the Manhattan Center and to see what it's become. It's like WrestleMania, to see what WrestleMania has become. So, I mean, it's truly, just shows what WWE has become overall. So, nothing really, major to say about it, Greg, other than I think it's going to be a fun show tomorrow night. We'll see the usual guest stars because it sounds like Hogan's announced, Taker, Flair, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. Nobody. Tatanka was mentioned, Greg, and then he had to pull out. His son is having a local competition in wrestling, so Tatanka. Well, that would have been a name I would like. Like that's the thing. I always feel like there's some names out there, Greg, that we haven't seen in forever. We're just used to seeing these other names, but I can't think of the name. I think some of those Ruthless Aggression characters, like a Carlito or Chris Masters, like those type of names, I think would be fun if they could try to pull them in. Like when Heath Slater was doing the Legends thing, that was kind of fun to have all those legends show up to take him out at the end. But I think I think it'll be a good show. We got title match for the U.S. title. We have the tag team title match. We got the steel cage match, and of course, you'll have the usual shenanigans of, putting in highlights of past Raws. So crazy to think, what a what a ride it's been. So, any closing thoughts on that, end, Greg?
Yeah. So we'll I'll pre up my last call for next week. So we'll put together our top 5 Raw moments.
Yeah, we can do that.
And that'll be.
Did you have 5 moments today, Greg?
Say what?
Did you have 5 moments today?
I don't know about 5.
Okay.
Okay.
I was going to say, if you had it ready, I'd let you have it, and then I can take off the fly. But I think, like we said, if we want to just have it ready for the viewing pleasure, we could always do that next week and then, have a legit list of 5 moments. they'd be curious
Yeah.
to see too if our 5 moments overlap.
That's what I was thinking.
So,
I mean,
okay.
I had 2 jump in the mind right off the bat, so they're
Yeah.
going to be on the list. And then I'm sure there's plenty more.
And we're just gonna do moments, right? We're not gonna, because I think if we try to go matches, there's no way. My brain is fried, but I can remember moments.
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
so
moments and matches.
we'll say moments. Yeah, okay, that sounds good. How
Um,
about this
and
real
then
quick? Who would you say is the face of Raw? If you had to give a face of Raw, is it Stone Cold?
all-time face of Raw.
Yeah, or is it somebody like, or is it later like Orton or Triple H?
I think like the first whenever you go to somebody and ask them, you know, if they like, WWE or like wrestling, that one of the first people they're going to think of is Stone Cold. Everybody knows Stone Cold because they, whether wrestling fans or not, they got tapped into that era.
Yeah.
And seeing Stone Cold, and shout out to JR and Jerry Lawler
For building him up too.
right, and just making the everyman. Everybody would want to be able to punch their boss in the face, or soak them in beer from a beer truck you drove to the ring. It made it so relatable to everybody in the audience.
Yep.
And that got Stone Cold over, not just on it transcended the wrestling. And it got into pop culture, it got everywhere. And even today, people who've never seen a Stone Cold match know who Stone Cold Steve Austin is. And that, like, his movie career exploded. At some point, everybody stopped what they were doing and watched Stone Cold. So I think Stone Cold would have to be the face of Raw. I had to pick one.
All right. Well, that's all I got. What was your other thoughts? Sorry, I interrupted you there. Did you?
No, it's all good. I have to give one more shout out. Going back to NXT.
Okay.
To Sol Ruka, because that finish that she hit. Who was she wrestling? It wasn't Alba. It was. Yeah, that finishing move she hit was amazing. And by now we figure we've seen every move in the book, but I don't remember. You have to go back and watch it. But she was on the rope, and she did a somersault backwards, like a reverse 630, caught Alba's head and hit a stunner on the way down. And that was the most mind-blowing move I've seen in ages. And I had to rewind it, watch it 2-3 times just to see. It's like, I don't even know. I've never seen that before. It is ridiculous. It's beautiful. And she nailed it perfect. So, shout out to her because, for creating a finish that
is unique.
Is unique and new, because that was mind blowing. When I saw that, I popped for that huge because I had no idea what I just saw. And the more I rewound it and watched it again, the more I loved it. So, shout out to her for mastering that, because I look forward to seeing that a whole lot more. If she makes it up to the main roster with that, it's gonna be huge. It's gonna be RKO level type finish. I don't know if she can be able to hit it out of nowhere, but when she hits it, people are gonna go nuts.
All right, well, let's close up shop with that and let you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and be back at it next week. Well, actually, we got to figure out when we're going to do Royal Rumble predictions because that's this weekend. So we'll talk off air, and probably Friday night or either Saturday. Maybe we could do Saturday or whenever you're available Saturday. I'm probably available later on before Rumble, so we'll figure that out and give you guys the lowdown on when that's available. So enjoy the Royal Rumble though this week, and enjoy wrestling this week. Have a good one.
Peace.